Thank you everyone for joining. Well, we have the honor to have Andrea with us, and she's a project manager. She has another role, but project manager of MoveApps. And well, Andrea, if you, sorry.
Thanks, Victor, for trying to introduce me. Thanks, everybody, for coming. I know this is the last kind of session. We still have a keynote, I know, of the last day. So I'll be talking about Movebank and MoveApps, what's new there. And just to kind of stress in the beginning, this is a group effort. You will be only hearing me talking all this time. I'm sorry, but all the other people couldn't make it. There you see all the kind of key people for keeping MoveApps and Movebank running. There's, of course, quite a lot more involved. What is keeping the whole system together? We call it the Movebank ecosystem. In the center of it, usually we see Movebank as the database. Maybe just to see who is using Movebank. So just a few, okay? So it's a database where you can upload or have live streams of tracking data into, which is then standardized, so you can easily share it, you can easily have it analyzed. But there's a lot of structure around it. We have quite some live streams. I will go into details later of automatic data inflow. We have env data to annotate data with, for example, weather observations with remote sensing data. We have the Animal Tagger app, which is an app for citizen scientists to follow some of the animals we're tracking and maybe taking pictures of them in the field if they're in their backyard. We have a repository where people can get a DOI for their data. And then we have MoveApps as the analysis platform, which is independent of Movebank, but strongly linked, and where you can also then have code or a workflow of code put up on the Movebank repository, which I think is a nice feature, and I will get into it again a little bit later. Movebank, we've already heard about Movebank a little bit here and there at the conference. It's a free database for animal tracking data. The data model is the following. You have a tag, so that's the thing that you put on the animal, which is collecting data, can be location data or any other sensor data, which has to have a timestamp. You have then your animal of certain species, and when you put the tag on the animal, that's a deployment, and the deployments, they have a start and an end date, and that's how we kind of define which data belongs to which animal, because sometimes, as you know, you can have the same tag on different animals, or even an animal with two tags, one on the right ear and one on the left, or something like that. So crazy things are coming on with better and smaller tags. I've been at this conference last year, and two of the main things that we had discussed there was that there's two live feeds missing in Movebank that people were really interested in to store and archive their data, but also to share it with partners that we're usually sharing data with via Movebank. One is American Wildlife Tracking. I'm very happy to say that this has now happened. It's kind of in its beta phase, so if anybody of you is interested in trying this out, please let me know, or send an email, or get in touch with Sarah Davidson, the data curator of Movebank. The second integration is with Gundi, which we've already heard about in the Gundi talk, if you have, so that data can be streamed from EarthRanger or Smart or other sources to Gundi and then into Movebank, which I think is really great because it kind of, a lot of our development time goes into developing these, what is it, live feeds. It's 1 to 5 weeks of development time to get that integrated. And if that's now on the side of Gundi, we are really, really happy that we don't have to do that anymore. There's still some bits and pieces that have to be solved, and I hope we can kind of do that together. But also, just for you to know, you can also manually upload your data. It doesn't need to be only live feeds. So just for archiving, for publishing the data, or for putting them into MoveApps, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Just so this talk is supposed to be about communities and how the tagging community, how also volunteers can be involved in making science in terms of tracking. Just to give you some numbers, there's many billions of locations and sensor records, but we have 3,700 kind of data owners that are registered in Movebank and that are putting up data there, which I think is really nice. And they're also kind of giving us feedback if there's some features that they would like to have, and of course we have to discuss them and see how they can be integrated. Very importantly, the Movebank data repository I already talked about. There are right now more than 300 curated archive data sets that are open, so you can download them because they have been kind of linked to papers that are published. Yeah, about 400 papers are published with such data sets, which I think is a great service to the field. You might have seen this slide before last year, sorry, but I think it just really nicely shows that in this golden age of data where we are now, tags are becoming cheaper with the day, they're becoming smaller. You can collect many more data than you could maybe 10 or 20 years ago. So we have a continuous growth of biologging data in terms of volume and complexity. And on the other hand, we have these guys that are analyzing the data with a large variety of analysis methods because the data are getting more complex. You need more complex or different analysis tools. And for at least putting the data in a standardized form to easily share between these two guys, Movebank is there, and Movebank is working already for a long time and doing its job nicely. But we wanted to kind of lessen the burden of both of them, especially of the code developers, because developing code for each use case simply is too much. And we've all heard that also in the talk of Jake about Ecoscope, that we have to find a way to make code reusable. And our idea was some 3-4 years ago to develop MoveApps as a platform where these coding people could develop small analysis modules, put them there, and they then get easily usable by data owners without them having to see the code. This all in the kind of idea that, okay, data decision makers worldwide, they have realized we need data, we need facts for basing decisions upon, but data alone is not helping. So we need knowledge that's generated out of this data, and there's currently a gap between having a lot of data and not so much knowledge out of them, which we are kind of trying to find a way how to solve, and MoveApps is kind of an example of how to solve that in the realm of tracking data. So going away from putting most of the analysis work on the scientists' shoulders, also putting it on the shoulders of citizens. So we all know about citizen science, people going in the field counting animals, people going in the field reading off rings. I'm sure there's also a lot of people out there that know coding, that have a passion for conservation that could help here. And we are part of my talk will be about how to tap in that source, let's say. And just a short overview. MoveApps is a vision, kind of. It's inclusive in terms that it's free and easy to use. So you can combine, we call them apps, they're kind of analysis modules, into workflows that are kind of linearly putting apps behind each other. All these apps are open source, they must be open source. It's a sustainable system in terms of that it is hosted on a cloud native, on a cloud. So it's a cloud native platform and it's serverless. So it's only using the resources that's actually needing, and there's no server sitting somewhere idle for 6 days a week. It is contributing to reproducible science in terms of that, what I already said, workflows can be published with the DOI, so we are closing the circle of having open source papers in science, where the insight that one gets from the data and the analysis is discussed. You have open source data, and now we can have open source code that is integrated in a system where people can interactively, without really understanding the code, they can use it. One feature that I always find very important is the near real-time automated workflow runs, where people can set up a workflow where data is loaded, data is analyzed, and the results are coming out, let's say, once a day. And people then get either an email, and there's also an integration with EarthRanger where data can be pushed to. Presently, we support R, and since this conference last year, we have put a lot of effort in also allowing Python apps, which we're really happy that it has also been taken up by the community. All the code for apps has to be on GitHub, so it has to be open source, so it's visible for people. People can have a look at it, can improve it if they want, get into contact with the developers. Then if you're on the user side, you can use the Movebank app. There's also 2 other ones, one for local upload, one for cloud upload. But Movebank is nice because it's standardized. And then you can add some apps like this morning report or any other apps. And if there's time in the end of my talk, I could maybe show you in a very small demo. I don't think so. We'll see. And then you will get some output in the end. You've maybe already heard about this vulture use case, which Gareth Tate told about the first day in the morning, where MoveApps is used to do a cluster analysis, and these vulture clusters are detected from tracking data and then fed directly into EarthRanger. And I'm really happy to see today, or to see 2 days ago, how much this has grown from just having 1 or 2 data sets that we tested this on last year, and now it's almost half of Africa with tracking data of vultures where this is being applied. And I'm really afraid every day that MoveApps might give an error and not send these clusters to EarthRanger, because people on the field are really relying on it. So this is really great to hear, but a bit intimidating. Other news of MoveApps, I already said, we have now the ability for Python. And one thing that I've found very important for app developers, we have a GitHub template, so you can download that to your computer and just just adapt the code to whatever you think your app should be doing. Also, we have consolidated functionality for app users. We have added many public workflows that you can, just by clicking add to my dashboard, load into your system, and you just have to kind of change the settings of the first app to your data from Movebank, and then you can run it. Maybe have to adapt some settings of other apps if your data is very different to the data that we have provided for a start. Also, we have now an app browser where each app has several categories, so it's easier to find them, because right now there are 113 apps. Can get a bit overwhelming when you just see the name of them, but I think it's worth to look through what's there. We have more than 900 registered users, and what I'm really proud on, it was 6 last year, now it's 21 app developers. So I'm really happy how this has also kind of grown, at least starting a little bit, to include external app developers. In an app developer workshop that we have done, and I'll talk about more later, one suggestion that we have kind of already put into action was to make a forum for people to exchange, because you have on the one side the coders. They know the code, but they're not biologists, they're not conservationists, they don't know anything about the movement of elephants or whatever, but they are very keen and very interested to know what are the problems, what can we help with. for me, that was really an eye-opener. And I hope that in this forum, maybe one of you can put in, oh, I'm looking for something that can do this. And then one of the app developers will see it. And you can kind of get into an exchange, into a discussion of what are possible problems. And then maybe an app will come from it without us as MoveApps having to push it or having to develop anything. So make this a kind of a community that's self-sufficient, I hope. One project I wanted to describe, and now I'm a different person, so this is now the third talk, is the Room to Roam project, which is a NASA granted project in the Yellowstone to Yukon area in Canada and the US, where we have 6 partners. And it's again the Movebank and MoveApps group working with us, with them, to build an archive of wildlife tracking. So there are different companies, different, how do you call that, organizations that are collecting data, but they don't want to share them, they're afraid to, they don't know how to share them. So we are kind of helping them to put their data on Movebank to share them in an easy way. Also, we are having them as guinea pigs for testing MoveApps workflows. They're really good in breaking them and reporting the errors, and we are thankful to kind of then being able to have the data shared to see what is exactly the problem and fix it for all the users. So that's really nice. And the Y2Y people, they, of course, they want to expand the coalition across the area that they're working on and improve wildlife management. Just some examples of workflows that they are using or we have developed for them or with them. The one you've already seen, it's the morning report, where people can daily see an update of like the animal whatever has the last timestamp. Then at this time of the day, we also have local timestamp. It has so many positions in the last 24 hours, in the last 7 days, and has moved so far in this time. You have a nice map. You have some characteristics that the tag is taking, which I think gives you a nice overview of how the tag is doing. Another workflow is to identify carcasses. Here they want to know where the wolves have eaten. And this is pretty similar to the workflow we've made for the vultures, where you download data from Movebank, where it's streaming in once a day. You have some statistics, you filter by speed, so you only get the locations where the wolves were actually standing on the ground and not running. You find clusters, and then you have a nice map here of where feeding sites were. What's also interesting for these people is identifying calving events. There's a parturition cluster app that a colleague of mine has made for the project. Skip over this one. And one issue that was really important to these people at these national parks is the impact of roads and other linear structures. And I'm sure this is also a problem here in Africa with all the fences I keep seeing everywhere. We have made several apps. One is a very simple one where you just see where the animal is crossing a road. And another one is giving you a behavior close to a road. So either an animal is crossing the road or it is reflected by the road. So it's kind of going to the road and then going back, or it's being kind of following along the road. This is based on the BABA R library, if any of you have heard of it. So this has been giving good results for people to decide where, for example, is a good spot to put overpasses, over roads. And just to share some general kind of outputs, and there's something missing here, okay. So the effort was to share data between the partners, and they have done that nicely in the past 2 years, but also to improve trust building with native communities, which I'm sure you guys know more about than me, how important it is to feedback to native communities about the work. And what has been really important, and unfortunately we could not yet integrate it into MoveApps, is making animations of tracks. So we can make an animation on a static map, but they wanted to have a map where, like this one, where the NDVI, so the greenness, is changing throughout the year. This is based on satellite data, MODIS, I think. And then you have the tracks on top, so you can see that the animals are somehow reacting on the grass or on the fields getting greener. Just as an example, so for the project, a colleague of mine has integrated that in her own system, which is available through Movebank, which is called Ecodata. So if you're interested in something like that, it takes a little bit of time to get and collect all the data that you need to load into that tool. But if this is really something you need, it might be worth to look into Ecodata. At some point, we will get that way in MoveApps as well, but it might take a little bit of time. The fourth part of my talk, so I'll change my hat, is about what have we done with the Conservation Tech Award money that we received last year. And we're really happy to kind of see that this prize is now going on to somebody else. So what I said last year and what I try to do is to make a workshop to get more people on board for making apps. So we made a coding challenge, which I called Equip MoveApps for Conservation, because like from last year's conference, I remembered that there's several cases in Africa and in other parts of the world where analyzing tracking data for specific conservation use cases is needed, or is at least asked for. And the four most important ones, apart from clustering, which we'd already done, and people were not interested in it anymore, were the detection of mortality, were range estimations and hotspots, movement hotspots and corridor detection, and the biggest one, probably human-wildlife impact conflict. And I set up a coding challenge asking people to make a small app that is addressing one of these four questions. And we had 12 participants. I was expecting a little bit more, but I don't know what the problems were. We were also putting it out, especially for people from Africa. Unfortunately, there were none joining from Africa, but that's okay. There was, I think, 4 or 5 people from the US and Canada, 5 people from Europe, 2 people from Asia, which was rather nice. Several people helped us to review these apps. So they were all running on the system. They're all available there, so you can have a look at them. One of the reviewers was Jess, who reviewed them all. I was really impressed. And the co-developers, so we invited them afterwards for a workshop, which we paid for from the conservation tech money. And they were so happy to get feedback about what they have been coding. One guy even said it was the best day in his life when he got the reviews, and I felt so bad about the reviews because it always incurs more work. But I think if you have a passion for coding, and having such feedback from actual people that are using it, that will be using it, is really, really key and very important. Just showing you what has come out for the 4 different use cases. In terms of mortality, there were, so this is about identifying when animals die, lose their tag, or become injured. This dataset is an example dataset of white stork that we have kind of gathered in our institute. So what people have done, one has made an app that is detecting sites where the birds didn't move anymore for a certain time, and then, but also allowing that after this not moving anymore, the birds were continuing. So maybe this bird has been trapped somewhere and then found out after a few days after all, or just, I don't know, has found a nice spot where it didn't move a lot. There's another app where only these final endpoints of a track were detected. And then there's an interactive Shiny R app, which a guy has made, which is if you zoom in or zoom out, you can even see like how many locations were in a cluster or not. You can see, I don't remember anymore what this was. I think some kind of activity, how far the bird was actually moving, and then it's going down a lot. And similar to the morning report app, he was giving some overview statistics of the tracks of these birds. The second one was about movement hotspots and corridors. There we had 2 apps. This is a data set of fishers in New York State, which is like a standard testing data set that we are using. And this one app is really nicely kind of extracting areas where the birds had to pass through somewhere to get to a next area. This other one, you cannot see, it's marked in white, is just have to believe what I'm saying. So it's kind of pointing out areas where the animal was moving through repeatedly. So it's not similar to this, but it's showing areas where a lot of movement is happening, which I think can also be interesting, I hope. Range estimation, there are 2 apps where people have analyzed home range. A data set here is Cape Buffalo in Okavango from Emily Bennett, where they have, I think one app is showing the home range of the last week. So see where your animal has been during the last week, kind of any time. Another one is giving the home range over the whole time that you are loading the data. So when you go to upload data with the Movebank app, you can set a time range of data that you want to load. And she has made an app where this is just kind of shown for the whole data set. You can see if you load data for the last half year, you can see where your buffalo in this case have been. And the last one is about human-wildlife conflict. Road crossing has been something that people found really, really interesting. So there were, I think, 2 or 3 apps about that. I'll just show you one of them here. And another app is about the contact with humans. Maybe you've heard of Strava. It's a data set where people that jog are kind of logging wherever they're doing that. So this is a data set of wild dogs in Kruger, where there's quite some data of that. And this guy, Matt Ketchin from Canada, has made an app where each of these dots is a location of these wild dogs, and the coloring indicates how much Strava activity there was in the region, which I think is rather interesting, as I think the Strava was along the roads, of course, and whenever they were crossing or walking along a road, they were kind of possibly interacting with humans. This is not in the same time, so this is more like an average activity, and not the exact time that the animal was crossing the road. And this is, the map looked much nicer in an earlier version, but each app can be updated, and this guy, he's really good at updating it and making it much more fancy, and I'll show you this app later on. And the bigger points mean more points crossing the road, the smaller ones just 1 or 2 points crossing the road. And I'll show you how that looks later on. So I told you that we invited these people from the coding challenge for the workshop. 9 people actually did come, and it was a really nicely mixed group of scientists. There was 1 postdoc and 2 or 3 PhD students from within the field of movement ecology, but there was also volunteer coders that were really the most exciting and motivated people in this group. There was one guy working on a bank, 1 person working for Google, 1 person working in some coding company. So that was really kind of stimulating how these people had a passion for making a contribution to science by their hobby as a coder, which I think is really great. During the workshop, we also talked about the platform itself. So we got some input, for example, how to set up a shiny UI for Python, which we don't have yet. So I hope that we can implement that in December. And but the main focus was really on the apps of the participants, and they were like so motivated to discuss it and see how we thought about it and how it could be improved for actual use in the field. Yeah, as I said, they wanted to have this exchange with people from the field. And one thing that I found interesting, that we asked them what kind of credit would they expect for contributing to the platform, and recognition and feedback was the most important to them. They want to be seen. They want whatever they're doing, what they're making, to be used. And I think the platform is a nice tool of allowing that, which is also kind of confirming that there is citizen science potential also for coding. Just some words about future of MoveApps. We are in the last stages of a grant where we're collaborating with people that want to make something like MoveApps but for remote sensing data. So downloading remote sensing data and then in an app way analyzing that somehow, which we want to integrate with MoveApps, so that all this environmental data, polishing and stuff we can do on their side. MoveApps can then kind of pull these background maps or background data, let's say, and make some apps that integrate with it, which I'm very hopeful that this will be answering the needs of many people that are asking about this. And of course, I already talked about the forum, so we want to increase the involvement of the community. One of the workshop guys even said, "Oh, I'm also happy to help you write the user manual." I was like, wow, this is so great. I really hate doing that because I constantly have to update it. And then he said, "Oh yeah, the community can help there." So that was really, really nice to hear. And maybe we'll just leave it at that. And as many people and community members and grant people and our kind of very helpful and pleasant collaborators that are actually implementing the backbone of the systems to thank, and thanks for your attention. And if you have any questions, be happy to answer. Oh, and Victor told me to tell you to wait with your question until he is there with the microphone.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I was wondering, with the remote sensing initiative for the future of MoveApps, what layers are you thinking about creating using remote sensing?
I don't know. So this is this is a big group of people. I think they will be faster and more efficient than us with MoveApps. I think they want to even make like half a department from it. So they know their ideas of remote sensing, what is the main data. Our working group is presently working on the effect of all kinds of wind and also habitat features to movement of different animals, especially also on flying animals. So I think that will be the first use cases because we know them, and we will be working together with the remote sensing specialists to tell them what exactly we need, because all the ready things that you can get from MODIS right now, they are often not enough for us. So we have to then recalculate and adapt the data, and we hope that this can then be done on that platform. But there's not yet any details.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Along this line about the remote sensing data, I was wondering, often it feels like there are some maps available, but they never suit exactly the need of one particular study. And even like the habitat class that one can use will depend on the analysis that they want to do. And I was wondering if it's part of the objective to also allow the user to define the needs of specific analysis and then run, I don't know, random forest models in the background to classify the maps for specific habitat class, for instance, or things like that, or if it's more of asking the team to build a specific thing. And
I'm not sure of the details yet, so this will be like starting up maybe next year, no, maybe 2025. But the idea is to have it similar to MoveApps, so that again the user can do things. Some code developers can add apps, and that we'll have a forum where you can state your needs. MoveApps is already now able to have apps, and we have a few where you can upload your custom environmental map as for some analysis for the area where your data are. So that's there, but we were not able to do anything more fancy than that, because yeah, our idea for this platform, at least for now, is tracking data analysis.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll maybe do the live demo if you're interested. So just to kind of give you an idea that MoveApps is not difficult to use. So you go on moveapps.org, you have to register if you don't have done that yet. It's for free. Go to dashboard, and the first view you have is the workflows that you have stitched together previously. It'll be empty if you don't have anything there. I have too many stuff there. But you can create a new workflow. We call it, I don't know, ERIC testing, and you can give it a category. So it's a name of the folder, so you can find it again. I think I've made a ERIC category, so I can find it later. Then you end up in this workflow mode. You have to select a data source. So right now it can be Movebank, location data, or we even can load non-location like accelerometer data. We don't have so many apps for that yet, but it's possible. You can load data from the data repository or upload it from either Dropbox or Google Drive. It's already finished a local upload, so from your files on the computer, but still have to be integrated. For Movebank, you have to provide and link your account details, so your Movebank username and password, so it's a different one from MoveApps. And then I was allowed to show and do the wild dog data from Kruger National Park here, so you know a little bit about it, probably more than me. I remember the 3 dogs that I wanted to. So here you see all the animals from the study. You see the first and the last date of data. Of course, we want to try and find some dogs that have data until right now. So there's one female here, I think, and one there. And this was the 3rd one I wanted. And I just go to next. And you can then select a start and or an end date. You can select to include outliers. In Movebank you can remove outliers manually or with some algorithm. We only want GPS locations. We don't want Sigfox locations. They're really inaccurate. And I'll try with the full data resolution. I'm not sure what the numbers are. And I can already start this running. And I add the morning report, so you can have a look. So here you have a view of all the apps that could fit to the Movebank app. You see at the end what the input and output types are, and you can install it here. And you see this little dot changes colors. That means it's running. Okay, and I can add apps while this is running. So at first I want to have like an overview, where has the dog been the last, oh, you know what I've done wrong? It's now all of the data, okay. For the last 10 days I only wanted, let's see. And I thought it would be nice to maybe only, it's now 3 dogs, 1 male, 2 females to select. And of course you have to envision this in a broader context. I'm now doing very small things that is running within these 2 minutes I have. I'm filtering to have only the male dog to see what he is doing in terms of crossing the roads. Because for some or other reason I'm not interested in females. Maybe they are not as aggressive towards cars as males, just making something up. And so these 3 are all R apps, I know. And if you're going to the app browser, you will have a list of all the apps and you will see if they're made in Python or in R. And until now, we still have to put a translator in between so that you can go from R to Python. You have to do that now manually with a translator app. It will be automatically integrated at some point. So you can check here for the category of translator. Down there. Then you can see how many different input-output types we have. Here for Python we use moving pandas trajectory collection as the data type, just as a detail for the people that know about this. And if I then go to this plus, it's only showing me the Python apps. And I want the road crossings one because that's really nice. And I have to rerun the whole thing. Then I will fix what I forgot. So I've showed you that here you can enter a start date, and I only want to know about the last 10 days. So I filter it directly at downloading. 10 days ago it was 20th of October maybe. Finish, and then it has to run again. So when it's blinking blue, it means the app is starting up. When it's green, it's running. So actually the R code is being executed. And then it's getting blue again for some post-processing, and that's kind of happening through all of this. Just while it's running, I can show you some features, like you can click on this little bookie and then you get to maybe you can even do that, go to the GitHub side where the documentation to this app is. So I urge you all, if you're using this, look at what the app is actually doing. So it's sometimes giving you some nice insights, especially when there's errors coming up. Another thing is, if you click on these 3 things, you can edit details of the workflow, just a name or a description, which will then turn up at the top. And you can schedule a workflow to run once a day or once a week, once a month. We have just implemented also to run hourly, but as that can be really heavy on the system, we only allow that for people that approach us and ask for it. So the morning report of the wild dogs looks, so you first have to give some settings also for these interactive apps. They're preset to look from now backwards. Interesting maybe is that you can have a distance calculated to a certain point that you can point out here, so where your ranger station is. I don't know where that should be. You can help me there? No, just somewhere here? Okay. Oops. Then you go to the next tab, which is then the visualization. Which sometimes takes a little bit to load. So you see here these 3 dogs that we loaded the data from. First timestamp 10th of October is what I asked it for. The last timestamp was today. So this is UTC, this is the local time zone. It had 70 positions this last week, 9 positions last 24 hours. It moved 41 kilometers this week, 3.5. these last 24 hours, so it seems to be okay, I would say. I always give as the measures I want to see. So here on the side you can see how much the animals have moved per day, net square displacement, but you can also select other measures here. So this tag is giving you tag voltage. So you can see how the tag voltage was from October 20 until now, 3.6 to 3.7. I've been told this is okay. You can have another one if you want, and yeah, really I don't know which one there could be interesting. And I've added also a third thing that gives you number of positions per day or displacement per day down here. So this day that dog was running quite a lot, another day it was not so active, and here you see a map that you can also zoom however you find it interesting. So this is the morning report app that you can use. If you go on these little green dots at the end of the apps, they only appear after the app has run. It shows you how many animals and how many locations are coming out of the app. If you click on it, it's giving you even more details, so you have an idea what the app has done to your data. So here it's 3 animals. If you then filter by having only male animals, it's only 1 left, so this is as expected. Then things is transformed to Python, and then this Python app has run, and the guy has made a nice HTML output that we can download by clicking on it, and that is giving us for this one dog. So what this app is doing, it's downloading the road layer from OpenStreetMap, and is making a map of where the dog was crossing the road for how many times. So at this point he was crossing for 7 times. If I zoom in, it looks a bit different. And interestingly, here he was 3 times. Might probably be some waterway where he was drinking. And you see that, and this is just me speculating because I don't know anything about wild dogs, but it seems that they are kind of going along. Oh, this is the road, the blue stuff. Exactly, and this is some kind of borders, is it? Probably. Well, you can kind of explore this. Now this map doesn't look so beautiful, but like if you want to try this out and have some feedback, you can give that directly to the app developers by going on app details, and there's a link directly to the GitHub page where you can give an issue. You can write a comment by making a new issue to the person, and then you are directly in contact. You can say map is not beautiful and send that off, and he will probably be really happy about it and answer you, and maybe I'll have a new version of the app being made. Thank you.